welcome to Good Grief, the podcast dedicated to demystifying and destigmatizing grief with compassion and humor. I'm Nikki. I'm an end-of-life doula and a grief coach in Columbus, Ohio. And today, I want to talk about healing. So before we get into today's episode, though, it's kind of a bittersweet moment. This is the end of season 5. This is the final episode for season 5. So we'll be on a 4-week break after today, but I will be back in early July, I guess, after my 4-week break. It's never a break for me. I never get time off from this podcast. It just slows down a little bit, but I will still be meeting with people. I still have some great interviews scheduled for me to meet with some other awesome people to share their stories. But for my final episode of the season, I wanted to do a solo episode. I'd like to try to start and end with just me, because that's how this whole podcast started. And I get so excited about the people I meet and the interviews I get to have that sometimes I just legitimately forget to record solo episodes. So I wanted to get one of those out for you today. Also, before we get in, as always, I would like to mention my Patreon. You can find me at patreon.com/Nikki the Death Doula. It's a fantastic way to help support me and this show. All the funds I receive from my Patreon goes to a line item in my budget so that I can provide pro bono care to those who cannot afford my services. I also give talks and things out in public for free. So, your Patreon is giving me money so I can do those things. I like to try to give back to the community when and where I can. And my Patreons are the way that I do that. So again, it's patreon.com/Nikki the Death Doula. And a huge shout out to all my patrons. You guys are amazing human beings. And I am so glad that you believe in me and you believe in what I do and you're happy and helpful to support me. You also, every month I do a little video, kind of like my podcast here, and just talk about what your funding, what your monies went to, what I did that month. I do have a client I work with pro bono, off and on we've been working with her for about a year now. And it's all thanks to you that I can help provide those services to her. So, all right, but that's not why you're here. You're here. We're going to talk about healing today. So, when I was trying to think of a subject for this I have a whole list of topics, and I've had some that have been on there since the beginning. I've just never touched them, but I was looking at the list and my eyes kind of glazed over, and this wasn't on the list. I said, what have I been hearing a lot lately? And I get asked questions a lot about healing and healing from grief and healing from the pain and healing from trauma. And if you've been listening to this podcast for more than a single episode, you've probably heard me say that you never get over your grief, right? And there's that trope of getting over it. We don't get over our grief. It's with us forever. That's not a bad thing. That's why I end every episode with grief doesn't always have to suck, because it doesn't. Grief is not always necessarily a bad thing. It's love with nowhere to go, right? So I thought I'd look into what healing meant to different people, because it means something different to everybody, right? And again, when people reach out to me to work with me, they're wanting to heal or they're wanting to get over it, which I always have to explain. That's not how this works. But most people are just looking for that way to feel better, because grief is hard and it's heavy and it sucks when it's new, right? But that's the thing about healing. Healing isn't a destination. Healing is a journey that we're on for the rest of our lives. I compare this to a lot of different things, where there's never really an end point. We might think there is. It's like trying to get caught up on work. There's no such thing. You're never caught up. There's always more work to do, right? I fall into that trope a lot, where I'm just going to get caught up and then I'll quit for the day, and it's 10 o'clock at night and I'm still at this desk. Because there is no getting caught up. It's just not. You just have to stop at some point. But healing is a journey. And I feel like there's a misconception out there that there's an end point to healing. You'll get to a point and you're all better. I was seeing a therapist for a while. When we came to our last session, she was like, "So how do you feel after our time together?" And I just cracked the joke. I'm like, "All better, thanks." It's not like physical medicine. And even with physical medicine, sometimes there's no full healing, right? Like landed on my hand like a year and a half ago. My wrist still hurts all the time. It never healed quite right. It's working, it's fine, but it still gets achy. So it's not an end point. Healing is just kind of an ongoing journey and something we continue to learn throughout our lives. And much like grief, it's not a linear process, right? It's not like you're here and you just keep working and you go up and up and up and up and up. No, sometimes you're here, sometimes you're here, sometimes. Like I've talked with my mom. My mom and I talk from time to time about, our grief with the loss of my brother, her son. And I mean, she even admits there's days where it's just as bad as the first day. I feel that way too. Like, obviously, as a whole, I'm a little bit less hurty than I was when he first died, but my grief is still there. It always will be. It's different now. But like grief and like grieving, healing is not a nice straight line, right? It's going to go all over the place. For those of you who aren't watching the video, I'm scattering my finger all over the screen. But it's not a linear process. It is a journey. So how do we heal? What are some ways we can work on healing? So a good first step is just self-awareness. Knowing that you're grieving, knowing what you're feeling is grief. And this is huge with disenfranchised grief. When you are hurting over something that's not a traditional loss that society might view, like it's not the death of a loved one. Maybe you are going through a rough breakup. Maybe you lost a friendship. Like I've been through that. I had a very rough, quote unquote breakup with a close friend a while ago, long time back. And it was hard. I didn't realize I was grieving for so long. And once I realized it was grief and I was grieving our friendship, it was now gone. It was a little easier for me to understand and start working with, right? So just that self-awareness, and not just self-awareness of the fact that you're grieving, but self-awareness of I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm okay, I'm relieved, whatever your emotions are, just having the awareness of what it is you're feeling. And I know that sounds simple. I say that, and like if I were listening to me right now, I'd be like, Nikki, I know. I'm not dumb. Like I know when I'm sad or mad or angry. Sometimes you don't though. Sometimes you don't realize that you're angry, or maybe you are, but you're not figuring out why. Like I had a week or so ago where I was just so irritable. Everything was just ticking me off, like the tiniest little thing, and I was flying off the handle. And I realized I was just having kind of a bad mental space day because there was something that had happened the day prior. I don't want to get into details right now, but it was, I didn't realize I was kind of working through that, and it just made everything in me really irritated. So, just having the awareness of, okay, I'm feeling this way, and I think maybe this is why. That's a great first step. Another step, cut yourself some slack, man. Self-compassion goes a long way. I talk about that all the time here. If you're angry, that's okay. Anger is a perfectly valid emotion. You're allowed to feel angry. You're allowed to feel. Most people get stuck on the joy the first time they laugh or the first time they feel joy after a significant loss. They're just like, oh my God, how dare I be happy at this moment? You're allowed to feel that. You're allowed to feel your emotions, right? It's what we do with them and how we react to them. That's what's important, right? So once you are having a little bit of self-awareness and self-compassion, then it's just a matter of building new patterns, right? If you find yourself numbing out too much, like I went through a real rough patch a few years ago, and I found that I was so stuck in my emotions and in my head and everything that I wasn't dealing with grief at all. I must have lost like 6 months of my life watching Netflix and playing on my phone, I think I was playing Candy Crush at that time or something. Like, I lost months of my life to that. It was doing that once in a while is fine. I did that every day for months. I wasn't seeing friends. I wasn't getting out of the house. Everything. It was terrible. I was just sitting and staring at 2 different screens. Again, once in a while, if that's something that helps you for a day, do it. But if you're numbing out all the time, maybe you need to start working on better patterns on working with that grief. Embrace the whole of you. You are a whole person. You are you, right? And the great and crazy and amazing things about humans is how unique we all are. And none of us are perfect. There's no such thing as perfection, right? Maybe you might think there is, but none of us are perfect, right? The most gorgeous model on Miss America pageants or whatever, I guarantee she gets diarrhea sometimes. Yes, I said diarrhea. She may have sneezed and farted once, okay? We're all human beings, and we're not perfect. And if you can just embrace yourself, your foils and flaws and all, that's what makes you you, right? I've got plenty of my own personality quirks, but that's what makes me me. That's what makes me different than somebody else who might look just like me or sound just like me or have the same lifestyle as me, whatever it might be. But it's all those little things. So it's just embracing you. These things are what make you a beautiful, unique human being. So what are some things that healing can look like besides just feeling better, right? Saying no to somebody without feeling guilty about it, right? Maybe somebody wants to take you out to dinner tonight, but you're just not feeling it, but you feel like you should out of obligation, but you just kind of want a day at home to sit in your feels for a little bit. Tell them no, but don't feel bad about it, right? Here's a huge one. Allow yourself, and this is, my husband gets on me about this. Allow yourself to rest without feeling guilty about it. Guys, I am terrible at this one. Just ask my husband. Anytime I'm sick, I'm Googling workouts that are safe to do while you're sick. Like, this is me. I can't just have a day where I sit on the couch. And that's not healthy. I know that. If you want to have a day where you're not productive, great. That is so utterly important. I can't stay. I always feel like I got to be doing something. I got to be productive, right? I'm not doing anything. I should be doing something. No, allow yourself to take a day off and be unproductive. Be lazy, right? I just talked about that with my watching Netflix and scrolling on my phone. Do that once in a while. That's fine. It's when you do it every single day. Healing can also be expressing your emotions instead of hiding them. Or so express, don't suppress. How's that? I love rhymes. You got to heal it to feel it. I always say that one. Express, don't suppress. It's okay to express your emotions, right? If you're bottling all that in, that's not healthy. That's not going to do you any favors. Let them out, right? Productively and without harming others. If you're angry, go for a brisk walk. There's some great tips on that. I saw a little graphic once, and I have it in front of me, so I'm going to read it. But it's how to instantly feel better. When you're angry, sing. I do this all the time, much to my cat's chagrin. If you're feeling burned out, go for a walk. Overthinking too much, write. If you're feeling anxious, breath work, breathing. Stressed, exercise. Sad, gratitude. Lazy, a cold shower. That works. I use that one myself. And if you're feeling impatient, reflect on your progress. I get impatient all the time with my business not going as fast or as big as I like, but I try to look back to where I started, and look at the progress I have now, especially with this podcast. Am I like a #1 podcast anywhere? No, far from it. But I have like 4 times more than that, like 4 or 5 times the number of listeners I had when I first started this podcast. So that's huge, right? So express those feelings some way that is not hurting others, right? Again, with the angry thing. A lot of times I'll go for a brisk walk if I'm really angry. The singing thing does help too. Overall, just remember, you're not alone, right? I say that all the time. No matter what you're feeling, somebody else has felt it too. And you're entitled to that feeling. So don't feel so alone in this. You can take some time to be alone, but just recognize that you're not. Okay? Cool. And one more thing on that though, reach out for help if you need it, right? And not just to me, but anybody. If you need to see a therapist, a counselor, a clergy person, a good friend, whomever it might be, reach out for help if you need it. There's no shame in that, okay? Make that promise with me. Pinky swear. I'm holding up my pinky for those of you who aren't watching the video. Pinky swear to me you'll ask for help if you need it, okay? Okay. I was thinking about this whole healing thing and what it meant, I wanted to see what other people thought healing meant. So I just did like a little googly search on what does healing mean to you? What does healing mean? Things like that. And I stumbled on a Reddit thread that asked this exact question. And this thread is about 2 years old, but it's from the subreddit Talk Therapy. And the title of the thread is just, what does healing mean? So I thought I'd kind of read through what some of people said about healing and what healing means to them. So the first answer from user Aware Snare said, eventually past emotional pain becomes less intense. When we start to allow our emotions to exist without resisting them, we can process and get over painful feelings, especially when we combine that with better thinking habits that no longer place self-blame, shame, etc. I think that's lovely. I think that's very well said. User TGAH said, if you are in less pain every day than you used to be, that's a step towards healing. If your relationships are less affected than they used to be, that's a sign of healing. Let's see. User Festive Unicorn 52 said, for me, it means being able to revisit past memories and emotional experiences that used to haunt me or be re-triggering in the present. Instead of feeling completely distressed, it's like I'm able to re-experience those things and feel healthy. I like that. I think that's a good one. A user that has since been deleted said, changing your behaviors, perspectives, and choices can all be ways to reflect how you have healed. Ultimately, I believe it is in our actions that healing is exemplified. Yep. And the choices we make, that's just how I see it. If you start to make new choices, i.e. speak up for yourself, set boundaries, start meditation exercise, etc., then that shows that you've made progress because you have more control over your life. I like that's a very good way of putting it, having more control over your life. Because when we let our grief and our emotions control us, that's when we kind of spiral. So great answers. All right. Oh, one last one. For me, healing means no longer expecting to have a PTSD flashback. Dreading flashbacks was worse than the flashbacks themselves. It also meant expressing my emotions and advocating for my emotional needs. Oh, that was user M Guardian North. M Guardian North. Very good. Bravo. Oh my gosh, that was really good. I like that. So there you go. I'm curious what your thoughts on what healing is. Reach out to me. Let me know. I'll give you all my stuff at the end. But we are getting close to the end of the episode, which means it is time for the Death Deck. Woo. If you're not watching me on YouTube, you should, just to see me do my little spooky death deck and woo. Anyway, but I'm actually going to pull from the end of life deck today. So I'm going to shuffle this up. I'm doing it on screen so people know I'm being honest. I'm being honest. All right. And we have, I have not had this question before, so I pull duplicates a lot. What visual stimulation would bring you the most comfort in the end? A, my favorite movies or TV shows on an endless stream. B, photos and videos that tell the story of my wonderful life. Or C, nature and birds outside my window. Nature and birds outside my window. I think we all know for me it's C. Interesting story. I went to a conference for doulas, and this was all doulas, birth, death, in between, everything in between, in London, Ontario last week as of recording this. And I met Lady Death Doula. She's on TikTok, Instagram. I don't know if she's anyway, Lady Death Doula. She is an utter delight. Her death plan includes putting Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3 on loop and just watching those because those are her comfort movies. And just there was one other movie and I'm blanking on what it was. Forgive me, I'm so sorry. But that's her death plan. She wants to have those on loop while she's dying. I think that's fantastic. There are some movies I wouldn't mind having on in the background. But overall, I I don't like a lot of noise. Loud noises upset me sometimes. So I just like calming nature sounds. Man, I want to hear some birds. I want to hear the wind blowing through the trees. That's what I want. And katydids. Katydids have to be present. There's something about the sound of katydids that makes me think of camping. And we did a lot of that. Still do a lot of that. But that's just beautiful memories. So that's what I would like. I would love to know your answer to the death deck question. Please reach out to me. You can find me at nikkithedeathdoula.com. If you want to hear more or see more about this podcast, find links to the books from my guests or other cool content, or get merch. If you want a t-shirt, a notebook, like a little journal for your grief, stickers, you can get that at nikkithedeathdoula.com/podcast. So go there to get some great merch and find some links for some of the previous guests I've had on the show. I'm still building out that page. So there's some stuff there. If there's something you don't see on there that you want, let me know. Reach out to me through my website. You can also find me on Substack. I'm at Nikki the Death. Actually, yeah, I'm Nikki the Death Doula on there. My little username is like at Nikki Death Doula, because somebody already took Nikki the Death Doula. I don't know who you are, but you took my name. Maybe I took theirs. I don't know. Anyway, I'm on Substack. Please follow me there. And again, patreon.com/Nikki the Death Doula. I do have social medias. I don't use them all that much, but you're welcome to follow that content there. And tell me your answer to the death deck question. But that's it, you guys. Oh my gosh, end of season 5. I cannot believe it. I have been at this podcast for over 3 years now. What? This is crazy. I'm not going anywhere. I love all this. I love this so much. Thank you all so much for tuning in this week and for this season. I will see you in 4 weeks. And remember, as always, your grief is yours, your feelings are valid, and grief doesn't always have to suck. Good Grief with Nikki the Death Doula is produced by Nikki Smith of Nikki the Death Doula LLC in Columbus, Ohio. Nikki the Death Doula LLC is for consulting, education, emotional support, and guidance, and is no way considered a funeral establishment or licensed mental health establishment. Scripts, editing, sound design, literally everything with this podcast is done solely by Nikki Smith of Nikki the Death Doula LLC, with the exception of the music. The music is Cheery Monday by Kevin MacLeod. Licensing information can be found at filmmusic.io.